Welcome to Markwho 42, where we discuss life, the universe, and everything. I am your host, Eduardo M. Fryer. Mark is currently still on his sabbatical, but hey, you've got me here. And you know what? I'm also joined, first off, by my lovely wife,
Patricia Fryer.
Yep. As you can tell, she just jumps on my every word. Secret to a happy marriage.
I didn't know if you were going to say my name or if I was going to say my name. You didn't tell me that before.
Well, you know what? I like to have you be able to say your own name. Okay, this is the 21st century. All right, you should be able to say your own name. Okay, we're not in Gilead yet. Okay, I don't have to introduce you. You know, I don't have to introduce
my God!
Wow. Okay, and actually, wait. Do we have another female voice on the podcast today? Yes, we do. We have joining us is
Iggy Matthews, who is not part of Commander and Friars.
Are you kidding me? What? Oh, jeez. Okay, great. So what? I'm supposed to have somebody be called of Fryer? Yeah, no. Pass.
I am a friar, I guess.
No, it wouldn't be a Fryer. It'd be of Eduardo.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Eduardo.
You know
That's right, because it goes by the first name.
Yeah, I don't.
Eduardo.
I don't like how that sounds.
I'm supposed to throw up. Excuse me, real quick. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got to introduce the fourth person on the podcast.
I'm sorry. Let me correct myself. I am of Zion. Ooh.
Oh
yes.
Ooh.
Jeez. Oh. Speaking of which,
he was a little too enthusiastic with that. Yes.
Because no one ever wants to be a part of my starship. We're
talking.
I have a crew.
Well, first of all, introduce yourself to the listening audience.
Hello, I'm Captain James T. I am John Kiros.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm just Zion.
Yeah, and we weren't talking starships. We were talking Handmaid's Tale. I don't think you want in on that one.
Oh my God, I can't do this.
Yes, you can. Well, you know what? Actually, we were talking about Handmaids, but that was just for the introduction. Because you know what? We've got a happier topic. We've got a happier topic on the show today.
Yeah, because Handmaid's Tale would be entirely too far from home. Okay.
Okay. Well, okay.
It's all right. Sometimes it feels like it's getting closer to home.
Yeah.
Oh my God, for real.
Yep. Okay. Well, as I said, it's a happier topic today. We're actually talking about Marvel's latest blockbuster, Spider-Man: Far From Home, which is, first of all, the sequel to Spider-Man: Homecoming, and also it works as sort of a little epilogue to the also just released Avengers: Endgame. I mean, would you say that's a fair comment?
Oh, absolutely. Literally, the Far From Home is him trying to adapt and overcome that whole Endgame situation.
Yep. So. In fact, yeah. You know what? I'm just going to say it right here, right now, that if you're listening, that if you have not seen Avengers: Endgame, there's no way that we can talk about Far From Home without talking about some major plot points about Avengers: Endgame. So,
spoilers, sweetheart.
You're warned right now.
Spoilers.
If you haven't seen it, pause it, go to the theater, see Endgame, see Far From Home, come back.
Not like we're trying to tell you what to do, but we are trying to tell you what to do.
Yeah, no. Well, look, I'm trying to be nice here. Because, okay, Avengers: Endgame has been out for a couple of months now, but, people get busy. Okay, so I don't want them to start hearing spoilers and going, oh man, this is all, you spoiled the movie for me.
First of all, you said Avengers: Far From Home, okay?
Avengers Sorry. Well, okay, see Endgame, see Far From Home.
Avengers: Endgame has been out for a hot minute. Spider-Man: Far From Home has been out for a lukewarm minute, okay? Still enough for us to talk about it.
Yeah, I would actually give Spider-Man. Well, I would say Endgame has been out for, I'd say, a hot 5 minutes. With
that's a long time. That's a really freaking long time.
Yeah, but still, but you know what? Life happens. So I'm trying to be fair. But,
so does feces.
Yuck.
Just saying. I mean, it's.
I was just about to say, I'm glad to have you back, Iggy. Wow.
Yes.
I'm glad I made you regret that thought.
No, actually, I don't regret it, but still, wow, it's like, geez.
Did you forget?
But anyway, okay, I think God, where would be like a good place to start? Well, I already said that it spoiled Endgame because
Well, obviously not close to home.
Yeah, no. It already I already said that Far From Home spoils Endgame. In fact, actually, I remember that it was said that Far From Home would start pretty much minutes after Endgame, and they're right. They're right. It does pretty much start, almost right after Endgame ends, and we actually get, it actually starts off. We get some vocabulary. I noticed. We get like a new vocabulary word. We get to hear the blip.
The blip.
The blip. Trish, what's the blip?
That's what they're referring to, that time period when, after everybody that got disintegrated by Thanos' snap, you know how they were gone for 5 years, and then when in Avengers Endgame, when they brought them back, to them it was like a blip had happened, because it just happened. It was pretty instantaneous for them, but for everybody else that was here, it'd been 5 years. So they started referring to it as the blip.
Yep. I actually read somewhere, and this is from I think Kevin Feige himself, that we basically have two terms to refer to everything that's connected with Infinity War and Endgame and people getting dusted. There's the snap, which is like the actual, going to dust, and then there's the blip, which is
them coming back.
Yeah, everybody just goes. It's just like you're sitting there, you're sitting on the bus, and then all of a sudden, pop! 10 people all of a sudden show up on the bus, and it's like, wait, what?
Completely unaged.
So can we discuss that? How that must be? Like, can you just imagine for a second? Like, for me right now, okay, I'm with my dog. I'm about to watch, let's say for a second, like it's my normal Friday night. I'm going to sit down and watch Jessica Jones, because for the life of me, I cannot freaking stay awake and long enough to understand what's going on in the show. So I have to keep starting it over. So, so I know Kilgrave is dead, and I don't know what's going on after that. So I'm sitting here trying to understand the rest of it. And then the next thing I know, I'm in front of some building and not even in the same state that I was in. So can you imagine for a second what that must be like? It's like blinking and you're just somewhere else.
Well, or I would go even that it's like even worse, because you're on your couch, you're watching Jessica Jones, you're there with your dog, then all of a sudden it's like you're in the same place, but there's a different couch.
Oh my God, different tenants.
There's a couple.
How weird that would be.
I mean, it's like the couch is different. The TV is, it's a different TV. There's a couple sitting on the couch, and you ended up popping right between them. And as you try to figure out what's going on, somebody's like, "Wait, you're Iggy Matt? You're Iggy? Didn't you die 5 years ago, like turning to dust?" And it's like, what?
I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Yeah.
What are you doing in my house? What are you doing in my swamp?
Yeah. Well,
then imagine also how it would be for like Peter Parker's classmates. Like some of them,
did they graduate?
Some of them graduated that were even younger than the people that blipped. And so most of people that blipped, all their friends are already graduated and gone, and except for ones that blipped with them. Or could you imagine if you were like a boyfriend and girlfriend and like only one of you blipped?
Yeah,
that's terrible. And only to find them with someone else, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute,
and
that's mind blowing.
Yeah, and to you, it's only been like a second. And trying to catch up for that 5 years has passed.
Right. And I don't think like the gravity of that particular situation was really fully grasped, not to its full potency, because unless you put yourself in that situation, which really when you're watching Far From Home, you don't really have the time to put yourself in that situation. You have like maybe a few minutes to like, oh, okay, that's messed up. And then you move on to the next thing. But when you actually sit down and consider just how horrific, just how traumatizing that must be, you can understand why a lot of the characters are acting the way that they are with each other.
Yep. Well, and then there's the other. Well, there's the other thing that there's the other thing. I think the more important as far as our hero is concerned, which is Endgame ended with Tony Stark dying. He died to stop Thanos, and
God rest his soul.
God rest. And as far as our hero is concerned, as far as Spider-Man's concerned, he lost his mentor in the superhero world. And, to make things even worse, he lost him like a heartbeat after he reunited with him.
Well, he lost him as a father. That's the biggest thing, because that's the closest thing to a father figure that he had.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I'm guessing since Uncle Ben, which by the way, which
so
by
his
the
whole
way,
life is full of like loss and death, so it only reinforces his depression, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, depression and kind of PTSD, because like, think about it. He ended up getting dragged. He ended up getting dragged into outer space. Was turning to dust. Comes back in what for him feels like like a second later. Reunites with his mentor, and then gets caught up in like this, everybody and their mother huge battle, and then he loses his mentor. Like, he doesn't even get a chance to like really fully reunite. They get like a hug, and we got to go and we got to face all these alien creatures, and that big purple guy that was kicking our ass. It's like, yeah, I mean that's some tough stuff to go through. I could understand why, he kind of wanted to give his outfit a break, and why he wanted to just not talk to Nick Fury. Because, like, I mean, you kind of need, I mean, it's like it's something that's bad enough, I have to finish high school, even though technically, I'm an adult. It's like, that's bad enough, but I also have to get over the trauma of losing my father figure. And just not having had a chance to really like fully, just understand what's going on, just be able to process it.
He was a complete badass in Endgame.
Yeah.
Okay. First and foremost, okay, he literally like showed up for that, and it doesn't help that it's not like he blipped after Tony Stark and then finds out about it. Like, he was literally there for it all. Okay, so there's always going to be that little bit of fault where it's like, maybe there's something that I could have done. I could have stepped in. Maybe I could have I should have held on to the gauntlet, So you have that very real human aspect, which, that's my only complaint in the entire movie, because Spider-Man is my absolute favorite superhero. And I don't think that anybody has ever done a better job than Tom Holland. Okay, so that's first and foremost. Okay, I absolutely love the movies. There is nothing wrong with them, but my issue is that unless you sit down and talk about these things and actually, speak to them in detail, you don't really understand the gravitas. It's really easy to it's almost like putting oil on the entire thing and pouring water. It's easy to we went through it, but we just kind of like jumped right through it into the action scenes, into him doing all these spectacular Spider-Man things, and there he is, but the whole point of the whole movie is like, he's not okay.
Yeah.
And you got to understand why he's not okay, because if you were in that situation, I don't think you would have performed as well as Spider-Man did, as resilient as he did, because considering all things that has happened, he was very strong and very resilient about it, even in his weakest points.
Well, actually, you do bring up an interesting point, and I do wanna ask. Would you say that a lot of it is not so much the film as it is the character himself? Like, maybe it's also Peter kind of not wanting to come to terms. Like, maybe he's just, maybe it's one of these things where he doesn't want that moment where he has to stop and think and be like, oh, geez, Oh,
yeah, but who would want to in a situation like that? Who would want to stop and think about that reality, because that is so hard to digest? So how do you effectively portray that on the big screen, right? So how do you portray that emotion and that psychology on the big screen? It's hard, because you can't fully portray that without triggering like half the people that are watching it for whatever things that they have gone through, so it is hard as a director to be able to portray that. But I honestly, sincerely believe that the director did the best that he could in portraying it as best as he could without potentially triggering everybody in there and making them go, oh my God, well, hold on a second, wait a minute, like, have you watched Spider-Man Far From Home? I don't recommend it, bro. It'll make you think about your whole life, so you don't want that happening either. You still want it to be like, hey, it's Spider-Man. Hey, it's okay. So at the end of the day, it still becomes a hope and, perseverance story. Like, look how resilient and strong he is. You too can also do this.
Definitely. I'm about to give out a controversial opinion.
Ooh.
Okay, so controversial opinion, and it goes with what we're saying, which is I feel like Spider-Man Far From Home, okay, is of the same cloth as Iron Man 3.
Oh,
Okay.
Wait a minute. Whoa.
Now let me explain.
I feel like you just pulled the tablecloth off and everything remained on the table.
Well, let me explain. Let me explain though. Okay. Let me explain. I've been thinking about this. Okay. In show prep, I've been thinking about this. Okay. See, Iron Man 3 was the first movie to come out after Avengers. Okay. And all right. We're gonna put aside all the disappointment with the Mandarin and the villain. We're gonna put that aside for a second because
I'm trying my hardest, but it is difficult.
Okay. The underlying thing with Iron Man 3 is that Tony Stark is going through PTSD because he's trying to recover from an alien invasion, of New York. And this is something that he had never had to deal with before. He got into a situation where it's like, oh, by the way, all those gods you hear about when you're like a little kid and you're reading your fun little Disney books and stuff, they're real. All that talk about aliens and stuff, it's real. It almost killed him. So with Iron Man 3, you have Tony Stark being like, holy blankety blank. This is reality now, and I have to live in it. Far From Home, it's the same thing in that Peter Parker has to live in a reality where he was dead and he came back to life. It's been 5 years since he was gone for everybody else, and his mentor figure is gone. And he's getting.
I would like to add. Thank you, Ant-Man. Continue.
Yeah, thank you, Ant-Man. And like his mentor's gone. He's getting reminded that his mentor is gone. People are asking him, "Hey, are you your mentor 2.0?" So it's like, in many ways, he has it even worse than Tony because it's like, hey, everybody's all set for him to be like, hey, are you going to be the next, rallying point for all the heroes out here?
Well, yeah, eventually, the guiding light. Essentially, Tony and Peter just switched places because Tony for all those 5 years was mourning the loss of Peter Parker and blaming himself, only for Tony to die and Peter Parker to mourn the loss of Tony and blame himself.
Yep.
So I mean, they just switched places.
Zion, what do you think?
I find that pretty interesting because one thing I've noticed about that is that we look at it as an audience because we know Tony and Peter's relationship. So the whole passing of the torch thing seems a bit fluid and organic. But on the outside, in the terms of the people in the story, Spider-Man isn't really much different from any of the other Avengers. So I'm really wondering why they chose Spider-Man out of all to say, okay, he is going to be the one to pick up the torch, especially since he was the least one in the limelight, at least from Avengers to Endgame, because he was only thrown in Civil War.
That's I don't think that's an unfair question, and that may even be like a part of it. I mean, notice how he was being kind of hounded when he made that appearance at that fundraiser.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of it is, people are asking. It's like, okay, word is this, this guy, this superhero was groomed by Tony Stark himself, but he's not as high profile as, say, someone like Cap was, or even
Absolutely.
like
Question: after Endgame, is he the only one left in New York?
That's a good question. I would say probably he of the ones who hung out in like the Avengers circle, he may be the only one left in New York, and if he's not, he's the only one that's like out there. That's like kind of public. Because Doctor Strange does not seem like the one who'd go out and do a lot of public stuff. Thor is in space. He's gone. He's in space. Captain Marvel is
gone.
Like we don't know where she is. We just know that Nick Fury said, "Don't say that name." Hawkeye is probably back with his family, and like, don't call us. We'll call you.
And Bucky and Sam. Sam's got to get used to being Captain America.
Yeah. Well,
first,
who even knows where they are?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't even know what happened to them. We just know that Sam got the shield, and we haven't exactly seen him in his Falcon cap outfit yet, so we don't know what he's doing. So yeah, Spider-Man I think is probably even like just the most accessible right now.
And people are looking for a hero because Iron Man's gone.
Yep.
So they're trying to find someone to look to.
Yep. Which is also, I mean, where Mysterio comes in.
Mm-hmm.
The Master of Illusions.
Yep, the Master of Illusions. Which, okay, you know what? Another spoilery thing. We're getting into another spoiler territory. All right, so show of hands, or at least as much of a show of hands as you can do. Yeah, show of voice. Okay, is there anyone here who actually thought Mysterio was a good guy?
Nope.
Well, you already told me he was a bad guy, so nope.
Yeah. So I mean, that's
oh
that's
my
just,
God, Eduardo.
Well,
you know him. He knows all the comic book stuff. He knows all the backstory and everything. So he just like as soon as he showed up, he's like, "Oh no, he's a bad guy. Don't believe it."
Yep. It's like fake news.
Fake.
I mean,
he's arguably the living embodiment of fake news.
Yeah. Although because we talk about Tony Stark as a mentor. Something was interesting was the idea of Mysterio trying to fill in the mentor role. I mean, just notice that the entire time he's keeping up his facade, he's actually with Peter. He's like, "Hey, how you doing? What's going on? You okay? How you dealing with this?" So he's actually trying to kind of slip into that. I think I read a description that Mysterio was trying to act like the cool uncle.
That sounds about right.
He was trying to act like the cool uncle, and I guess and I guess that makes Nick Fury kind of the grouchy uncle.
And it's so funny that his whole plan is just littered with references to the comics and everything. Yeah. And honestly, like, he was throwing out so much references to the comics that I literally thought that he was actually from the 616 universe.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, exactly. Yeah, I was wondering, if actually 616 was going to be now official. Like, is this officially the 616 universe? Kind of makes you wonder if he kind of pulled that one out of his hat, or if he got it from somewhere. Which, by the way, more on that. We're gonna put a cap on that because we got to go to commercial. But more on that when we come back.
When we come back.
Yeah, because we got commercials.
What did they used to say? Don't touch that dial.
Don't go away. We'll be back with more Markwho 42 after this.
Hello, I'm Judy Garland, known to some of you as Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. Toto, I've got a feeling this isn't Kansas anymore. I think we must be on Odyssey.
You're now listening to Markwho 42 from the Whoniverse and beyond.
Welcome back to Markwho 42, where we are having an amazing, spectacular time talking about Spider-Man Far From Home. Now, before we went to commercial break, we were talking about the bad guy of the piece, Mysterio, and how, well, he's living up to his name as Master of Illusion. Now, this version of Mysterio, he's a little different from the comics. He actually does have a connection to Tony Stark. But Zion, wanted to ask, what do you, as my fellow comic geek in the group, what do you think about this little deviation from Mysterio's story?
Honestly, it was arguably the best deviation of any villain I can think of. Like everything made perfect sense of what he was doing with it, and the whole illusions thing. Because honestly, the whole barf thing, I'm pretty sure just left everyone's minds by now. So when it came back, it was like, oh my god, that makes so much sense.
I do remember that actually. I do remember there was talk, would barf technology actually play a hand in Endgame, and it turned out that no, that was not the case. Trish,
What?
I'm passing this off to you. What did you think of the fact that they brought back that scientist from the first Iron Man, the one that Jeff Bridges chewed out?
Tony Stark built this in a cave.
Yeah, exactly.
You mean Ralphie from Christmas Story?
Yep. Ralphie from Christmas Story. He was the scientist from Iron Man, and they brought him back here.
With a bunch of facts.
I'm always a fan of when they reach back and grab some small detail or an obscure character or something from way long ago and bring them back, and then you realize, holy crap, that was supposed to mean something. Yeah.
Yep.
I love it when they do that. So,
I mean, and it's done right, because it probably wasn't meant to be anything at the time. Like, I don't think they had Ralphie from Christmas Story and Iron Man to go, oh, we're going to bring you back in about 10 years. So,
Yeah, because
like,
that's what Mysterio is, dimension hopping. Like,
yeah.
And I...
Or so,
I don't know.
or so he was telling everybody.
Pretty much.
Yeah. But I gotta, the fact I happen to love the iteration about how it's like, okay, we're going to take this character, and it goes back to, it's one of these things where the heart of the MCU, it all goes back to Tony. And this is one of the things,
Yes.
It was like that with Homecoming too. Vulture, why did we have Vulture? Because, S.H.I.E.L.D. and Tony Stark came in and was like, okay, no, we got this. And,
No, let's, it literally comes down to, like, listen here, okay?
Yeah.
Listen to me. Jake Gyllenhaal with a fishbowl over his head.
Yeah,
Now, hear me out, okay? Like, it's gonna be sick.
Well, that's the thing, though. I mean, that's the thing, though, because if you're familiar with the comics at all, if you're gonna do Mysterio, you got to do the fishbowl.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Big old
you have to.
fishbowl
You
right
have to.
over his
You
shoulders.
have to. It's like,
and
hey,
then when he takes it
Eddie,
off, it's Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, see, Eddie, for people that don't know the comic books and stuff, when I first saw the fishbowl head, I'm like, why?
Old school diver?
Yeah, it was like, okay. And then when he took it off, it was Jake Gyllenhaal. I was okay, cool. Yeah, that's much better.
Right. It went from like menacing to it went from like, what the actual foxtrot
Whoa.
am I looking at? To, oh my God, it's Jake.
Yeah.
Okay,
well,
I'm going to listen.
Well, I also, what I like is that you had, you had the hologram version, the one that would be the one flying around and stuff, and then you had him himself, and how they still kept kind of the fishbowl motif because he had that rig kind of on his shoulders that also kind of pulled almost a fishbowl thing. So it's like, hey, we'll still play around with it, but you know what? Mysterio is always going to be about the fishbowl. One thing though, Zion.
Yes.
Since you're the fellow comics guy, I'm going to ask you this: did you catch the Easter egg that was thrown in as the tour group was resting up after the attack in Venice?
Was it the Hydro Man?
Okay, what do you mean?
Flash says something about the water elemental, where he says that he heard a rumor about it being a man that fell with a generator.
Yeah.
And if you know comics, that's the original origin for Hydro Man.
Yep. They actually, in fact, my ears perked up because when Flash started talking, he actually used his name, Maury Bench.
Mm-hmm.
He said that's a guy named Maury Bench, it was cool that you had that little Easter egg that they actually did, decided to throw that in. Like not only are we going to have this water elemental, we're actually going to try and make you think it is Hydro Man, even by throwing in his origin.
Yeah.
Which, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of wish that they went the full mile, but I understood that they really couldn't. But one thing I've noticed is that they call them the elementals, but they look a lot more like the elementals of Doom from Diablo.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't. And honestly,
Diablo, the video game.
No. There's a Marvel villain who's like an evil alchemist, and his name is Diablo.
Forget I said anything.
Okay, all right. Hey, you know what? That's fine. Hey, remember, we only have 2 like diehard comic geeks on here, so that's okay.
Okay, but you know what? I would also like to point out that video games are very highly underrated around here. Okay.
Yes, they are.
True. Well, you know what? We'll have to see if we can fix that. We'll have to see if we can fix that. We'll work on that. But yeah, we had, that's actually a good catch, Zion, and I wouldn't even be surprised if that's intentional.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because we know that there is a group of villains in Marvel called the Elementals. There's the Elements of Doom, which is Diablo playing around with different little elements and creating monsters out of them. So I would not be surprised. I really would not be surprised if everything, the names that were attached to these creatures, the name Elemental, and the fact that they look like, I would not be surprised if it's the filmmakers going, we're going to throw that in there. And anybody who knows will see that and go, I see what you did there. Awesome.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, because there would be no reason for them to throw anything that isn't comic book related in there, because at this point, Marvel has been in business long enough to know what the geeks and the nerds are looking for, okay? It's not like they haven't been paying attention to all of these podcasts, to all of the reviews, to all of the Comic-Con panels. It's not like they don't know, okay? So literally, it boils down to, let's throw all of these little things. So the true diehard nerds are going to go, oh my God!
Yep. Not to mention the fact, I mean, you even look at the toys. You have the figures, and a lot of times they do with the figures, especially the big 6-inchers, they have something called Build-A-Figure. So you'll have like 5 figures coming out, and then you have to buy all 5 because they have different pieces that you can put together to form a bigger figure. And with the Spider-Man toys, they actually had the fire elemental, and if you look at the package, it says, buy all of them to make Molten Man. It doesn't say Mysterio's lava guy illusion. No, it says this is a villain called Molten Man.
Oh, that's awesome.
It did not give the game away.
Interesting.
Patricia, anything to add?
No.
Okie dokie. But I think another thing that we gotta touch on, because you know what, this is Spider-Man. For all the superheroing, this is still Peter Parker's story. I think the other piece that we need to kind of talk about is MJ.
She's super smart.
Oh yeah,
she figured it out.
Yeah, she figured it out. Not to mention that I gotta say I love Zendaya as MJ. I mean, it's not, she's not, it's not Mary Jane Watson. It's a different MJ. But honestly, I like her. I like how the character's done. I like that. She's smart, and she actually.
No. It's not just about the fact that she's smart. She's outspoken. Okay?
That too.
She is the role model for all these females that, instead of like let's compare the first Spider-Man that we saw in the MJ that we saw then, which was like this, this blonde who was dumb and was like, OMG, save me, all this, which is like really despicable. But then you have now who's Zendaya, who's doing a great job, which is like, I don't need your help. I'm calling you out. You need help. You need to do this. I don't need you. Like, no, for real, I got this. Like, I loved her. I loved her.
Even at the end with the attack in London, when she's specifically targeted, and you have her and Ned and Flash, and you have all of them getting chased by the drones.
Yes.
The fact that who's the one who grabs the mace and like actually takes a swing.
It's something.
It's MJ. The fact that she figured it out on her own. As soon as she knows she's being like a part, an actual like part of the team. Dude,
it was so good to see a strong female role.
Yep.
It was so refreshing.
And you know what? And like in many ways, it makes her more like the comic MJ. Yes. Like a lot, like, because there are times in the comics where MJ is she's able to stand on her own 2 feet. I mean, I have a comic in my collection where she gets stalked by a guy and she actually manages to defeat him herself. Spider-Man's nowhere nearby, and she actually takes the guy down herself. I mean, that's kind of that's the MJ. That's the MJ I know and love. The one that's perfectly willing to
as compared to Lois in the what is it, Superman versus Batman, who's like, oh my god, it's too late, but I'm gonna try to do something. Wait, your mom's Martha? My mom's Martha. And that's what saved the whole thing.
Yep. Why did you say that name?
How dare you?
Yeah, exactly. Why'd you say that name? Yeah, no, we did not have any of that. We didn't have any of that here. One thing though, okay. All right, so question for the group. We're gonna switch names right now. So question for the group. When Peter got the glasses, how many people here thought that it would be that the AI would be like Tony?
I was hoping. I was really hoping. I was crossing my fingers and everything.
Yeah.
Me too.
I was glad it kind of wasn't, because honestly at that point it would have felt to me as beating over the head.
Yeah.
But I definitely like the concept of the glasses staying and it being transferred to Peter.
Yep. And of course,
I was all set to cry. Like, I had my tissues ready and everything, because I was like, as soon as I hear him say, "Hey, kid," I was gonna like lose it.
Yeah.
Well, like, here we go. There's gonna be some message. We're like, hey, I'm proud of you. Don't worry about it. Like, I did what I had to do. Like, I was ready for it.
Yep. Alas, we didn't get that. I mean, there was a part of me that would have been happy about that, but another part of me that's like, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it not being like a Tony AI. That said, though, I gotta love the name, because Tony Stark is all about naming conventions. So this one was Edith.
Okay, I'm gonna be real. I was totally expecting like Thursday or Wednesday.
Okay, because of Friday.
Even Tuesday.
Yeah.
But definitely not Monday, because nobody likes Mondays.
Mondays suck. Hashtag. Edith. Well, of course, it's Edith, but why is it Edith? Because what's it stand for? Even dead, I'm the hero.
That is the greatest anagram ever.
Isn't it?
Well, because this is Tony. Of course.
Okay, but it still is like a huge eye roller coaster, because it's like, oh my god, even death was still a jackass.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is one of those, it is something. One thing I do like about Edith is the scenes where Peter's trying to get, like, trying to handle all the little functions and stuff, like when he almost nukes Brad Davis, which I mean, I thought that was hilarious. It's one of those things where, we're talking Spider-Man. Spider-Man has always been kind of an underappreciated genius, but he's never been the tech guy. He's never been the guy to have like computer gadgets. Like, the most gadgety thing would be like his web shooters and
his belt, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. So now here's Peter like in an unfamiliar type of territory.
Thank you, Zion, for stopping that. His web shooters. That's it.
The web shoot. Well, and the belt. And he's got a belt with a camera, and that's where he keeps the spare web cartridges.
His web shooters. That was about it.
And searchlight belt.
Searchlight belt. Yeah, that's what I was saying. The belt, that has the camera and the searchlight and everything. So yeah, it is something to see Spider-Man in a place where he's kind of a little out of his depth because he's dealing with all these gadgets and doodads and whatnot.
Now, since we're on the top of tech, can we talk about how Peter just essentially just 3D printed his own suit?
Oh yeah, no, that was.
I'm not gonna lie, I totally considered it because of watching that movie. I'm like, oh my god, can I do that too?
Yep. Although I somehow doubt, like I'm sure we could all probably 3D print our own spider suits, but without Stark Tech, I don't think we could have as many of the doodads and whatnot.
I promise you, I have a 3D printer. It's not that easy. It really isn't.
So you're not going to be making us all spider outfits, Iggy?
Not saying that I tried, but I'm saying that I'm speaking for a friend. Okay, unrelated to me at all. It's not that easy.
Okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I got to admit, I wasn't expecting it to be that easy. But it is good. It is good that we have you here to let us know that it's a little, it's not quite just putting up the printer and being like, okay, so the little spider emblem goes in the chest, and it's. Although I gotta figure out, does he now, like, can he just get that plane whenever he wants?
That's what I'm thinking.
Actually, wait. Oh, actually, you know what? I just stopped myself. He can't get the plane. It blew up. But it did blow up. Although I kind of have to wonder, is there like another one with all that, that he can just call Happy and Happy shows up? That said, though, I think Nick Fury would probably have something to say about that.
Nick Fury in quotation marks.
Nick Fury in So yeah, I think Zion. Should we actually? Zion brings up a good point.
Disrespectful here.
Yep.
All right.
Should we? Hey, well, Zion does bring something up. Should we jump into the end credit scenes? Because there's a couple of good ones here.
I don't know. Are they going to be accompanied by bunny ears? That's what I call the quotes.
Bunny ears.
Bunny ears.
Wow. Wowzers. Once again, missed having you around, Iggy.
Yeah.
So what do you think, everybody? Should we get into end credit spoilers?
Sure, why not? Let's do it.
Okay. All right. All around. So yeah. Well, first off, I think we got to go in order because the first end credit scene we have. Well, first of all, we find out that the bad guy, Mysterio, has one last trick up his sleeve, and that's he did some creative editing to make it look like Spider-Man was behind the Battle of London and behind all of Mysterio's stuff. But the big thing is, first of all, Peter Parker is outed as Spider-Man. Okay, he actually reveals his identity. It's broadcast to the world. But the really big thing is who does the outing. Zion. Yes. Who outs Peter Parker to the world?
Mysterio, the Master of Illusions.
No, but who actually takes his footage and broadcasts it?
Oh, you mean Jonah J. Jameson, the greatest man that wants to always get Spider-Man?
Yep. J. Jonah Jameson is now made his MCU debut. But the cherry on the sundae, what makes the scene is he's played by J.K. Simmons. They brought J.K. Simmons back to be Jolly Jonah Jameson. I mean, Trish, what was my reaction in the theater when we saw this?
You almost jumped out of your chair, but like so many, but more than half of the audience had the same reaction, though.
Yep.
And unfortunately I'm not a big Spider-Man fan until Tom Holland, so yeah, I didn't even remember who this guy was, so I had no reaction at all.
And it's interesting too that the Daily Bugle now isn't really like a newspaper, but it's like an Infowars type of thing.
Yeah. I actually I like that because I mean it's
You
one
got
of
to give
those
it the
things.
times.
Yeah, it is one of those things where it's like, okay, yeah, I mean, you got to get with the times. How do you do the Daily Bugle if you keep it like, as a humble little newspaper?
Right.
You kind of have to. I mean, you probably could still have like a print type of thing, but it's good to have that. It's good to have. Okay, let's take it to the next level. Now, of course, we have the other end credits scene. So, Zion, explain to the audience why you said Nick Fury in quotes.
Because it's not Nick Fury.
It's not Nick Fury. Who was it?
It was that scroll from Captain Marvel. I can't remember his name. Talos.
Yep. Nick Fury and Maria Hill, apparently throughout the entire movie, were actually Talos and his wife. I think her name was Sora, something like that.
But you know what, though, when that was revealed, I'm like, it makes so much sense because they were both acting not like themselves. I mean, they were still pretty close, but there was still something off. And the fact that they were able to convey that to the audience, that's a really, that's really good. I mean, because that's hard to do.
I've even kind of wondered since that scene. I've even kind of wondered. In the film, there is a scene where, in one of the stops on their tour, Peter goes to see a seamstress who apparently is trying to make sure the stealth suit fits. I kind of even wonder, was the seamstress supposed to be Hill or Hill, quote unquote, or Talos, like in another disguise? It's like, I wonder. And well, we do see the real Nick Fury. He's apparently taking a vacay on some sort of space station. I've noticed that there's a lot of talk online as to what that means. What are we like? What are we leading towards with that? I kind of wonder, does this mean we're getting Sword? We're going to get Sword. Is Abigail Brand going to pop up at some point? Is this something that may play a part in Guardians of the Galaxy 3? What does this mean for the future of the MCU?
What are Sword?
Are we, is this leading to something, or was this just a cute little Easter egg of Nick Fury taking on outer space vacation? Could it also be, Nick Fury? They're taking a page from the comics and they're doing Nick Fury as the Man on the Wall. Is that what this is leading to? This just opens up. I mean, both end credit scenes. What I love is they open up so many doors, and there's so many places you can go. And honestly, I'm just like, wow, that this is great. This is awesome. You know what? Let's let's go on. We're gonna do final thoughts right now. Let's see. Patricia, final thoughts. Spider-Man: Far From Home.
It was really good. I absolutely enjoyed it. It was a great follow-up to Endgame, and Tom Holland's the best Spider-Man ever. And yeah. And I just looked up how old he was, and he was born the year I graduated high school, so now I feel really old.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I feel that old when I look up like child actors that I grew up with, and it's like, this person is 56, and I'm like, shut up, liar, lies. Okay, Iggy, final thoughts.
I think that it was very intense. There was so many things going on that it was a great transition from one mind foxtrot to the other. Okay, it's like, oh my God, this is what's going on. And then it's, okay, so now this is what we're doing. So what's that going to lead into? Okay, so this is who you met. So what are you going to do with that? Are you really going to trust this guy? Okay, so you're not trusting this guy? Okay, so we're going to do this. Oh, and here's MJ. It was literally a blast to watch this movie. And I walked out of there satisfied.
Great, awesome. Zion, final thoughts.
Okay, overall the movie was great. I find it a very fitting ending to Phase 3 in general and going into Phase 4. And I really enjoyed this movie all the way up until the end. And that first credit scene honestly ruined the entire movie for me. Because one thing that the outing of Peter Parker, right, is a situation where people of Spider-Man do not like at all, because there's, at least in my opinion, there's two main points to Spider-Man. The death of Ben, and him keeping his identity a secret. And if you know comics, in the original Civil War, he outed himself. And that came with a giant slew of awful things. Not only story-wise, but with writing in general, just with Spider-Man. And so Marvel had to essentially cover their ass and say, okay, how can we get out of this?
Yep. And so basically what you're saying is, are we heading towards one more day?
Yes, essentially. We are pretty much there. But the problem now is that the MCU can't really fix it.
Well, you know what? We'll see. We shall see what we shall see. And on that note, do have to say adios for, we're going to have to do a little end crediting of our own. Sorry, there's going to be no end credit scenes. This is a podcast. I don't think we can do that. But you know what? From all of us here at Markwho 42, this is Eduardo M. Fryer with Patricia Fryer, Iggy Matthews, and Zion, saying, hey, keep things amazing, spectacular, face front, true believer. And you know what? Very quick, also a little shout out to John Pertwee on what would have been his 100th birthday. Happy birthday, Third Doctor. So yeah, Excelsior, face front, true believers.
Markwho 42 has been written and presented by Mark Baumgarten, Trish Fryer, Eduardo M. Fryer, Iggy Matthews, and Zion Quiros. Ed was wrong. There can be post-credit sequences here on Markwho 42. Hi, I'm Mark Baumgarten. I haven't been around for a while. I'll be back shortly on the show. Don't forget to listen to the other show that I normally do, Doctor Who Audio Files, here on Odyssey Radio, Saturday nights at 6, and then repeated throughout the weekend. Markwho 42 has been edited, directed, and produced by Mark Baumgarten. Ed was wrong. There can be post-credit sequences here on Markwho 42. Hi, I'm Mark Baumgarten. I haven't been around for a while. I'll be back shortly on the show. Don't forget to listen to the other show that I normally do, Doctor Who Audio Files, here on Odyssey Radio, Saturday nights at 6, and then repeated throughout the weekend. The theme music is by Sam Beckwith. Markwho 42 is owned and copyrighted by Mark Baumgarten 2019. This is Odyssey Radio.